Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Awaken Sunday Live Q&A. Today, how to stop serving the God of our modern society. Today, of course, is Sunday, March 10th. It is 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You are here live via the Awaken the World YouTube channel with me, Garhen. Garhen Avalokiteshvara. That's it. I said it. I actually remembered it. That was hard. Yeah, funny story if you haven't heard it yet. BC government phoned me up, about 10 days ago or so now. And, I think we were actually having an early supper because sometimes we eat at like 3:30 in the afternoon for supper time. We're kind of like Buddhists in that regard. We really like to leave the whole evening free of food so that what you have in you can be fully processed and you can go to bed and your body can turn to more important tasks like healing. And, they said, okay, well, legislation has changed and you have to pick a last name. So that's the name I chose. Why? Because it's really difficult to spell and to say. And as soon as we walked into the DMV to get my driver's license and care card updated, the girl, she looked at it and she just went, "Whoa," out loud. So I asked her, I said, so what are you going to call me if you stop me at the side of the road and you see that? She says, "Garhen." I said, perfect. Exactly the effect I wanted. So it just goes to show you there's more than one way to skin a cat. And why we would ever choose that as a phrase is beyond me. It's like, killing two birds with one stone. Well, why would you ever want to do that? I mean, please leave the birds alone. And part of it's the pills. The pain medication and nerve relaxants they're giving me aren't really working on the leg. I got to tell you. There's a lot of pain there still. Maybe there's more pain there if I wasn't taking them, but the pain is still pretty intense. But they're certainly helping to bolster my mood, and that's perfectly okay. So today we're going to talk about the God of our world, our society, and of course, that God wears the disguise of money. And this is the God that we all serve to some degree. Now, a lot of people, they like to get really upset at this one, especially if they're kind, good-hearted Christians. They're the ones who seem to yell and scream the most. When I say to them that you don't serve any other God first except this one. And everyone does so in varying degrees. And the face of that God in our existence, in the physical realm, is money, cash. And it doesn't matter whether we're talking about gold, because that represents a certain amount of money per ounce, or silver, the same thing. Bonds, gems, whatever, it's all equated to how much of that physical God manifestation that most of us worship far too much of, and everyone worships to some degree. A lot of that worship is forced. It's not really worship. This is a very jealous God, of course, and underlying the false face of this jealous God, which is money, has the actual God. It can't be seen. And that's the God of power and control, but we can certainly see the results of the worship of the God of power and control. The physical manifestation, of course, is money. The more of the physical manifestation of the God that we all worship, the more that you have of that physical manifestation, the more power and control you perceive you have. It's all a lie. And again, forgive me, it's the pills. I have an excuse for the next couple of weeks. They're an outright lie, okay? And we're gonna continue on here and discuss why, because this is really important. So, what are we willing to do for this false god, this god of power and control that wears the face of money? Well, we're willing to do pretty much anything. We're willing to break our word with ourselves and with others in trade for the god of power and control masquerading as the god of money, the god of cash. We use egoic rationalizations, and this is the funny thing about the ego, okay? The ego is so insane that it can rationalize everything. It can make everything it's doing the best possible thing for it and find any reason why to validate why it's doing so. You have to be so on guard for those. The ego will engage in convincing itself as you watch that what it's doing is right, because it somehow has a right to that God, more of a right to that God than someone else has. That God of money, which isn't really the God of money, it's the God of power and control masquerading in the physical world as money. We're willing to lose trust over this God of money. We're willing to lie to our friends, to our families, and to ourselves in order to keep a hold of more of this God. We're willing to lose relationships over this God, whether in choosing to withhold some of this God from another, or to be out there taking far too much advantage of this God of money. We are willing to give up those things that are so precious in our existence, all to appease our desire to have as much of this God of money available to us as possible. Why? Because we think it represents power and control within our own existence. It's not true. It simply isn't true. Why do we do it? Well, we do it because on some level we feel that money represents safety. The more of the God of power and control we have masquerading as money in the real world, the more safety we perceive we have. And there's no point in even starting into the examples where that's proven otherwise. No matter how much money you have will not stop you from having a heart attack, will not stop you from having an accident, and there are no accidents. It will not stop life from delivering to you exactly what needs to be delivered to you. We perceive a level of safety, and yet we do not think of the others around us in the process. Why? Because, as I said, that God is a jealous God. It demands its relationship just be between you and it. Those of us who have learned to no longer serve that God still utilize that God where necessary. Why? Because we live in a world controlled by that God. There are other steps that you can take as well, but we have to finish off with the reality of this worship of this God of money, okay? And this is the most dangerous rationalization that ego uses. I deserve it. It is the one trump card that ego holds to use over you, no matter whether you owe the government money, or you're not making your car payments, or you're not paying off your debts, whatever the case may be. I deserve it. The ego holds that to trump over everything. And in that moment, that God of money smiles because it has you. Totally. At that moment, you give up any sense of loyalty or honesty or care for the people involved, and you rationalize you deserving the radiance of that God, and that God smiles upon you, and you think you have power and control in your existence. So how do we separate ourselves from that? How do we wake up from this? Because, of course, as I said, we live in a world that is very much controlled by that God. Go within. You see, when you start living in truth, when you start understanding the truth of your own existence, when you understand that anything external can never, ever bring you any lasting satisfaction, when you finally wrap your head around that, you've begun to free yourself from the God of society, the God of money, the God of power and control. When you go in within the silence, you learn to see what's going on with your egoic self. You see those rationalizations, and you don't fall into them. You instead become more honest with your transactions with others, more free, less worried. You are looking for a feeling, okay? When you hoard money or focus on money or focus on purchasing things and continually are buying, spending. It doesn't matter whether that's spending on travel or whatever else your ego rationalizes is necessary to spend on. Stop right now and ask yourself, did you get any long-term benefit out of it? Did the feeling you were looking for keep going? Is it even there anymore? Do you even have those objects anymore? It's a tough one. You're looking for a feeling. You're not looking for things, and you're not looking for people. You're looking for a feeling, and that feeling is one of connectedness, one of wholeness, one of being loved and cherished. And it may seem to you that you can find it outside of yourself, but if you do find it outside of yourself, you must know by now that you do not get the yin without the yang in this dualistic universe. You cannot have the joy without the pain. You cannot have the love without the fear and the loss of love. So where do you go within to get the truth? Deep inside to the center of your being where the true self sits. The true self understands your journey. When you stop looking outside of yourself, when you go within, you will find that feeling you're looking for, and that feeling will become a state of being, not something that appears and disappears at the whim of others over you, but something that lives within you, always accessible, always there, always able to be felt. You know, when we began this whole little project here, Kelly and I, to do these videos, and we've reached about 600 videos now, and you know, numerous posts and discussions and personal one-on-one video messenger chats with many people. We decided in the beginning that to even so much as hint that people should donate would tarnish this in some way. That's how much I wanted that God of money out of this picture. Stop judging. When we stop judging others, when we stop judging ourselves, when we stop judging what's happening, We lose a lot of that egoic rationalization that we use to quite literally screw our relationships, screw our friends, screw our families, and screw ourselves. But if you're not willing to judge, if you can look beyond judgment and learn to observe from a place of the only way to say it is spiritual indifference. You're simply watching the events as they're occurring, not putting judgments on them, letting them be just as they are, and observing the results. When we stop and take the time to hear the silence, we can observe our thoughts. We can see the sickness of our mind. We can see how much we worship and adore that God of money because we feel it represents some sort of power and control within our world. And there is no power and control in our world. They are illusion. The only power anyone has over others is the power that is given to them from those of whom he has power over. I think I got that right. The only control anyone has is in our reactions. And better to not react, which is literally to engage again from a place we've already been, but to instead create anew. How do we stop serving this God? We let go of the God. That doesn't mean we still don't go to work and do what we need, but we do those things to earn enough to appease a society who still serves that God. We don't make that God the point of our existence. We don't make foolish worrying about our retirement or about whether we can afford a new car next year or what's going to happen to us when we're 80 years old. We don't allow those things to take away from our living right now and pull us out of the present moment. Trust in life. The odds of you even being born, talk to any doctor, are so infinitesimally small that life even exists in this world. Why, oh why would you throw away the beauty of your existence and your opportunity to share it with others who love you and would surround you with love, all in trade for the false god of money? When you let it go, here's the funny thing. The rest of the world still serves it. And you know what? You've let it go, but that money keeps coming to you. Why? Because that God is a jealous God. It wants you back. And as long as you're detached from it, the money will keep flowing your way. But you'll no longer allow it to control you. You will no longer find reason to hold on to it instead of holding on to those you love or the things that you truly care about. When we let go of the incessant worry, when we let go of ideas that I deserve, honestly, there's 7.5 billion people here. Do they not deserve as much as I? When you let these things go, when you let money go, when you stop serving that God, when you give up the idea of external power and control and you go within, all that you need is provided. Before you even have asked, it's already been left there for you. Before the notion even comes in your mind that you need it, the universe has provided it. Problem is we're always looking for dollar bills. They're not even real. What is real is God manifesting itself through the people around you, the people who surround you, and God manifesting itself through you. That's what's important. That's where our hope as a species and as societies lie. In our realization that God is in each of us, and perhaps we could put this aside and decide to just recognize the oneness of us all. I hope this video has served you today. I hope it allows you to think closely where you allow yourself to trade off the truth of your existence in order to serve this God. Much love to you, and namaste. We will see you again very soon.